What up, watchers, listeners, all those who are tuning into our podcast today? I am your host, Garett Christopherson, joined today by my co-host, Natalie Brinkerhoff.
Natalie Brinkerhoff and the Hizzy.
Awesome. So, episode 3, The Truman Show. We're going to talk about it. One of my favorite movies. Very eager to hear about Natalie's thoughts on it. But before we do that, we have some announcements. First, we have a fun segment for the first time ever for this episode. And 2, we have some shakeups in our rating system and the topics we're going to talk about. But before we get into that, Natalie, would you like to introduce our fun segment?
Our fun segment is what we watched this week, other than the Truman Show. I think this will be a good way for you guys to get to know what me and Garett choose to watch on our own time. So, I can start. Should I do all 3 or should we do it back and forth?
Let's go back and forth.
Okay,
see how we
I'll
like
start.
that.
First thing I watched, is the Super Bowl. Go Sports!
Ooh, what were your thoughts on the Super Bowl?
To be honest, I did not watch it that intently this year, mostly because I hate the Chiefs, don't really care for the Eagles. But, I did really enjoy watching the Chiefs lose and lose really bad and watch them suffer.
Yes, ma'am. I am not the biggest Chiefs fan nor the biggest Eagles fan. I'm not a huge fan of Patrick Mahomes like a lot of people. And I thought, I'm very happy that the Chiefs lost bad, but it was a very boring Super Bowl. There weren't even movie trailers in the commercials.
I will say I was mad. That was the first thing I said when I got home. I was like, we didn't even get a good movie. We didn't get a movie trailer out of that. That's so lame.
All we got was a Jurassic Park teaser, which we already got a trailer for that, and then Thunderbolts, which you had to go watch online. So
yeah, lame.
Yeah, I guess I also watched the Super Bowl, so that would be mine as well.
Yeah. But what else did you watch this week, Garett?
I guess we do our 2-week breaks, or our 2 weeks in between filming. So
yes,
in between
correct.
that 2 weeks, I watched Unbreakable, my favorite movie.
Nice.
Which one day we will be talking about on this podcast. Not yet, though. I don't feel like it's ready. It will be ready. But yeah, still my favorite movie. Still fantastic. I could talk about that for hours, which I will one day. But yeah.
We might have to have a 2-parter episode on Unbreakable for Garett. Okay, the next thing that I watched for those who like reality TV is The Traitors. Dun dun dun. It has it takes all these reality TV show contestants from other shows and then puts them together, and basically they play Secret Hitler or Werewolf. It's kind of like that sort of game, but leveled up. And the reason why I started watching is because I love Boston Rob from some of the earlier seasons of Survivor. And sadly, spoiler alert, he got out this week. But it was very entertaining.
I never even heard of that show, and I love Boston Rob, but I guess I'm not going to watch it now.
Well, you could still watch it. It's still really entertaining.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I love Boston Rob. What a guy.
Yeah.
But Dylan Efron is on it, Zac Efron's brother, and then
interesting.
There's a royal, a random royals on it, and then there's a bunch of people from different housewives shows and Big Brother. It's pretty entertaining.
I love it. Interesting. I might check it out. Second thing that I watched this week was the TV show Invincible. New season just dropped, season 3. I only watched the first episode. The first 3 episodes came out. For the listeners who watched that show, it is still peak. I'm very happy to report. So it's great. I don't really want to give kind of a synopsis on it because people should just go watch it because it's awesome.
Yeah, go
on
check
Amazon.
It out.
It's fantastic.
Love it.
But yeah.
My last thing that I watched this week was Sweet Magnolias, which is on Netflix. Season 4 just came out. It's literally the stupidest, it's basically a Hallmark movie and a show, and it really has very little substance, but, it's just a nice background noise for me.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah. Season 4 was good, so.
Last thing that I'll talk about isn't a what I watched, but rather a what I read.
Ooh, I like
Changing it up. I've been reading Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive. I finished the first book, Way of Kings. I've started the second one, Words of Radiance. Highly recommend it. Very good books. Very chonky, like 1,000 pages, but it's so good. I can't really stop raving about it to a bunch of people that I've been talking to, but
sounds cool.
It's very, very good. Everybody should read it. Very fantasy, lots of good character moments, magic-y type stuff. It's awesome. If you like anything by Brandon Sanderson or just kind of fantasy in general, I highly recommend checking it out.
Love it. Well, what a great little segment we had there, G.
What a nice little segment. It was only 5 minutes long. Let's at that.
Go.
Nice. This actually wasn't the first fun segment. We did have one last week, but it was about like 20 minutes long, so I decided to cut it. But
yeah, we didn't need it.
Yeah, we're workshopping the fun segments, but I really like this one.
Yeah, it's a good one. Maybe we'll bring it back.
Maybe. Tell us, dear listener. Tell us if you liked it.
Yes, please let us know.
But, so before we get into talking about the Truman Show, just to make our viewers aware, we changed up some of the things we're going to be talking about and changed up our rating system, like I said at the beginning. So to go through real quick the things we're going to discuss, we're still going to discuss kind of the big things such as plot, character, music, and aesthetic. We kind of morphed writing with character and then acting with character and then writing with plot. So we'll be talking about those things, but just in those sections. And then we added a few topics, things that we've come up with and things that some people have asked us or have told us would be good. So we're kind of workshopping it, but that is favorite and least favorite scenes, and then entertainment value. So is it entertaining regardless of if it's good or bad? Sometimes a good movie is still not very entertaining. Mm-hmm. And then when to watch this movie. So for example, last week we talked about how Little Women is a really good movie to watch in November. So when would we watch The Truman Show? What months of the year? That type of thing.
Love it.
And then obviously our overall thoughts at the very end.
Mm-hmm. Sounds great. And keep the suggestions coming. We like to hear ideas, what you guys want to listen to, all that stuff. So we appreciate all the support.
And what you've been watching. We would love to know.
Let us know.
Give us some ideas of what things we could watch.
Yeah, I love it.
And then our new rating system, we want it to be a little bit more fun. Thanks to Natalie's dad, TJ. Shout out TJ. He gave us the idea to make our rating system more fun, more interesting, more original, and we're testing it out.
Yeah, we're going to see how it goes.
We have come up with the rating system of popcorn bucket. So, for example, here are the ratings. It's small, medium, full, or small, medium, large, extra large, and then with butter, no butter, or extra butter. So, just to explain it, if it's the popcorn bucket size is how good we think it is objectively, and then the butter is how much we liked it personally. So for example, if I'm watching a movie that has really good writing but it's really boring, I'm going to give it large popcorn bucket, no butter. Good writing just wasn't my thing. That type of stuff.
Exactly. Yes, correct. Or if the plot sucks but you for some reason really enjoyed it, could do a small bucket extra butter. Who knows?
Exactly. If I'm watching the first Michael Bay Transformers movie, probably give that plot medium bucket, but extra butter. I love that movie.
Exactly. So, yes, let us know what you think of this ranking system. If you guys like it, we're gonna test it out, see how it goes this week, and then we'll see if it sticks or not. We're trying out everything. We want to get into a good groove where people enjoy what we're doing. We gotta find our sauce, Garett.
We gotta find our sauce.
We gotta find our butter.
Exactly. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing this new rating system. But without further ado, let's get into the Truman Show. So just to give a little overview of the Truman Show. Hopefully you guys have watched it in between last episode and now. But the overview is, the synopsis according to Google is, he doesn't know it, but everything in Truman Burbank's life is part of a massive TV set. Executive producer Christof orchestrates The Truman Show, a live broadcast of Truman's every move captured by hidden cameras. Christof tries to control Truman's mind, even removing his true love Sylvia from the show and replacing her with Meryl, the actress they hired to play his wife. As Truman gradually discovers the truth, however, he must decide whether to act on it or remain in his current state. The Truman Show was directed by Peter Weir. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know if I am. And stars Jim Carrey, Ed Harris, and company. One of my personal favorite movies, but Natalie has never seen it. So I'm very eager to know what she thinks. So,
I know.
Natalie,
guess you guys will have to find out. You want me to start us off?
Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I kind of want you to start.
Okay. So, Truman Show, like I said, one of my favorites. So I'll be having a lot of really good things to say. There are some things that I'll point out later that I think could be a little bit better. But overall, I freaking love this movie. And so starting off with plot, I think overall I would give the plot of The Truman Show an extra large with extra butter. I think the plot of The Truman Show, just the whole idea, is one of the most original ideas Hollywood has ever had. Like there is nothing else that can compare to this idea of a man's life is just all a TV show, all a recording. Everything revolves around him, and everybody else in his life are just actors. I think that's something that, I don't know, a lot of people have either thought about in some regard, not necessarily that my life's a TV show, but like everything revolves around me. Do people around me even like me, or is this just an act? That type of stuff. And it just does that idea on such a grand scale and such an interesting scale. And I think just the way everything plays out is super, super interesting. For example, there's questions that viewers would have while they're watching this about like the logistics of it all. Like, what if he fell in love with another woman, or how do they even keep him on set? And they answer those questions as the movie keeps going, of the logistics of how this even can happen. And I think the way everything plays out is just so interesting, very captivating. I think Truman slowly coming to realize that this is all just made up, that this isn't real, his life has been a lie, is very interesting. The pacing of the movie is fantastic, in my opinion. It goes by very, very fast. It's not super long, but it's about like hour 45.
40 minutes,
I think.
Yeah.
It flies by every time I watch it. I haven't seen it in years, so I'm very happy that it, if anything, I feel like I like it more than I did a couple of years ago. And I have a couple other things, but we'll talk about that as we go, because I want to hear your thoughts overall.
Yeah. I gave it a large popcorn bucket with extra butter.
Yeah.
Woo!
I was so nervous, actually. I was so scared.
Really?
Yeah.
No. Again, I'm easily entertained. I thought that the concept overall was so cool. It reminded me of Jury Duty, but times a million. If you've seen Jury Duty. Which is Jury Duty probably got the idea from Truman Show. But yeah, I thought that the concept of like control versus freedom in somebody's life was pretty interesting to think and conceptualize as I was watching it. And I also just thought it was super interesting. I was talking to my friend Lainey. She was doing my hair the other day, and she was like, I hated that movie because she was like, I feel like everybody was, she said it made her paranoid, but I didn't feel that way at all. And that's what I've heard other people say as well, is that after they watch it, they get like main character syndrome, and they're like, what is going on? What is everybody watching? But I didn't feel that way at all.
It's a very existential movie.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
But I thought it was great. One of my favorite parts about it, as we are talking about writing and plot and stuff, was the way that they intertwined the ads. The ad stuff. Like, as soon as it started, I knew exactly what was happening when they would be like, and this is whatever that they were talking about or advertising. As soon as that started, I was like, okay, I'm in this. Like, I could feel how good it was going to be. But, and I do have to say, I had seen that I had watched the end scene before. So I knew how it ended because I had seen it on YouTube or social media or something just because it's so iconic. So I knew how the movie ended, but it was very interesting and thrilling for me to watch how it all went down. Because I didn't know how everything all wrapped up. So I liked it. Thought it was good.
Yeah, and speaking of the like product placement jokes.
Yeah, the product placement jokes. When they like push him against the wall and it's like the poster.
And the camera just focuses on like the chicken or whatever that they're trying to sell.
So
my favorite one is when like Truman and Meryl, his wife, get home, and after he tries to escape and he's just sitting there and he's just, going through it. And then she's like, yeah, why don't you try this new like hot chocolate from like the mountains of Nicaragua or something? He's like, what are you talking about? Like, who are you talking to? It's so funny every time.
Yeah.
And I think, like you were saying, the whole themes of control versus freedom is so interesting, like agency and stuff like that.
What would you choose?
Exactly. Like the themes of agency and the whole kind of Kristoff's God complex and, the metaphor of Truman talking to the sun through the clouds is not lost on me. Like, I get what they're doing, but I don't think that this movie is really like anti-God as much as some people say it is. I think it's just more of, making sure that you recognize that, hey, this is still your life. Like, you have to be the one making decisions. Nobody's like pulling strings for you. As a Christian man who believes in God, I think 100% like God is in our lives all the time and helping us through stuff, but he's not necessarily living our lives for us. And this movie kind of encapsulates Exactly. This movie kind of encapsulates my thoughts on that a lot of he's in our lives and he's helping us, but he's not like a Kristoff of forcing things to happen.
Control, yeah.
Exactly. And I think the themes of it all, the writing, very, very, very good overall.
Yes. I will say some things that I got hung up on. Not really, but like that I was just like, really? What are we doing? The whole idea of the set being that massive. Which I mean, how else would you do it?
Yeah.
But the like zoom out onto the world where you see the dome, I was like, nope.
Yeah.
I don't believe that we would. I mean, the whole thing is what lengths would you go to be entertained? Right?
Yeah.
Like it's like how extreme can we get? And also the whole adoption by corporation thing, which I mean, again, it's answering your questions for you. Like, how did this child get birthed and then get put into this situation with all of these actors? There has to be an explanation. So I get it, but I was a little unsure about that. But the set especially, and the one part when they do the interview with Kristoff, and it like zooms into the moon, and you see his face. I couldn't handle that. I don't know why.
It's so
it's good.
Goofy.
It's good, but it's goofy. It is. I mean, a lot of the movie is, but I enjoyed it either way. Those were just the things that I, as a first-time watcher, was like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, even this time watching it, I was watching it with one of my roommates who'd seen it before, but it had been a long time. And when it did that, we both were just like, what? It's like, you get past it. Like, obviously, it's saying, what you were saying, the lengths you'd go for entertainment. And the movie obviously knows that it's goofy and over the top in a lot of regards. And it doesn't necessarily like take away, but it is something, it's similar to Florence Pugh playing Amy as a 12-year-old in Little Women.
Exactly.
Like this isn't ruining it, but it's, like, what are we doing?
It does take you out of the movie for a minute, though.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes you think, what? But, in an alternate universe, maybe.
Yeah. And speaking of that kind of, this movie is very rewatchable in the sense that you'll always pick up on new details.
Yeah.
There's so many hidden cameras that you don't see, or product placement that you didn't even notice the first time.
Yeah.
Or the ways that they just control things. It's super, super interesting.
It was, I mean, as a first timer, it's just trying to get the hang of the way that they were doing everything, and creating this world that Truman lived in and the way that we see it as a viewer, but also having the audience be a part of it too. It was super cool. Like you said, I don't know that anything else will ever compare to that original of a concept. So
yeah,
thought it was really cool. Great plot. Since we're kind of connecting plot with writing, I wrote my favorite line in this section, and it was at the end. And when he says, "You never had a camera inside my head," I was like, I thought that was so cool because Kristoff thinks he knows everything about Truman. And even up until the very last second, he's like, "I know you best." And he's like,
you're not going to walk through that door. Like, I know you're not going to.
Yeah. And then Truman just comes back with, "You never had a camera inside my head. You don't know what I'm thinking," which, I don't know, just felt so good. So crisp to me. I can't think of any other word.
I think kind of going, I didn't have my favorite line taken, but I think, my favorite line, same scene, is just the very last line of the movie. "If I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night."
Yeah.
It's just so, that's probably, I think Truman Show might be one of, if not my favorite movie ending, specifically because of that line and just how satisfying it is and how they've built up that line throughout the movie. And then that's his like swan song. That's how he bows out.
Yeah.
Is so good.
Yeah. His "see you later."
Yeah, exactly. But while we're on the topic of plot, one of our new topics is favorite and least favorite scenes. So, Natalie, what is your favorite scene?
My favorite scene, other than the end, because I do think that is the best part of the movie. But beside that was when he escapes with Lauren or Sylvia. I just thought that was just my favorite part, when she's like talking to him in the library and is like, "We have to go now if we're going to do it." I don't know. Sylvia, well, I mean, we'll get into character, but I just loved Sylvia.
Yeah. If we're talking about my favorite movie or scene in the movie, like you said, probably the ending. Really, really good.
Can't
but I
be
wanted
beat.
I wanted to, just like you said, take that out of the equation. It's just, besides the ending, what's my favorite scene? And I think it's probably when it's cutting back and forth finally between Kristoff and Marlin, I think is his name, his best friend's name, I believe.
Yeah.
When they're talking on the bridge and you see like Kristoff's just giving him the lines through his ear.
Yeah.
And how Kristoff's like just directing the scene and he's like, "Let's build the music." And his just face as everything comes together. It's just so interesting to see how much of a God complex this guy has.
Like when he's feeding him the lines.
Exactly.
That's interesting that you say that, Garett, because I put that as my least favorite scene.
Interesting. Contention.
Not because I didn't like the scene. I thought the scene was very well done and was very interesting. And I thought it was good to see that side of things. But I was just so mad. I was just pissed. I was like, "You're going to do my boy Truman like this? What are we doing?" I felt so bad. Like, I think that's the purpose of the scene.
Yeah.
But I couldn't come up with a different least favorite scene. So I was just like, I'll do that one because it really did just make me so angry.
So angry. And it's so interesting because this watch through, I really realized how powerful that scene was, because Marlon's talking about how, "I'm never going to leave you, man. Like, I love you. I'm your best friend. If everybody's in on it, that means I've been in on it."
That means, and he's been,
and he's just getting fed those lines. It's so good. It
hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts. And that's why I didn't like it, because Marlon, he's on my hit list now. Not my boy. I do not like that man. No, it's actually not Marlon's fault. It's Kristoff's fault.
Yeah. My least favorite scene is, I don't think there's necessarily a bad scene in the movie, but there's that one shot of towards the very beginning when Truman's gardening and his wife gets home. I just don't like it because Jim Carrey's butt is he's just throwing it back on the camera and it's crazy.
Actually, I will agree with that because it was, do you know what it was giving? It was giving the Grinch.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I've seen this booty before and it should be green.
It should be green.
So, yeah, no, I agree.
Nice. All right. Well, moving on now to character. Natalie, what did you give character in the ratings?
I'm gonna give it. I wrote down that I'm looking at it. I don't know that I agree. 1 second. Yeah, I'm gonna do large popcorn bucket again with butter.
Yeah.
I really liked all the characters. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. I thought Truman was such an easy character to root for. I really liked Jim Carrey as Truman. I honestly haven't seen a ton of Jim Carrey movies.
Yeah.
So I thought this role was cool, other than the Grinch. So I can't really think of anything else off the top of my head. So I really like that. My favorite character in the movie was Sylvia. I just thought that she was so cool because she was like, this isn't right.
Yeah. She was the voice of reason.
She was the voice of reason. But yeah, I really liked I liked them all.
Yeah.
I thought they were all interesting. I thought Marlon was interesting because he was just the thing is that all those actors are all a part of like the lie, but at the beginning they're saying that it's all true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's interesting that they're all going along with it. And that they feel good about that. I also think I didn't bring this up in plot, but I think the whole idea of them trying to make Truman a dad is crazy. Because I'm like, what do you mean? You want him to actually like have a child with his fake wife, even though it's his real wife? Anyways, the ethics of that is insane.
Yeah, that's one of the cool details that you kind of pick up on more as you watch too, because you see how much they're trying to just like program into his brain with his surroundings of you need to have a kid.
The subliminal messaging like all around him. And anyways,
so
I also thought the character of the audience watching was really cool because I thought it was something necessary in the movie to see like the outside perspective of them watching, why they're so enthralled, the conversations that they're having around the Truman Show. I thought that was necessary to make it make sense. So, did I miss anybody?
I don't think so. Like, I mean, Kristoff, but...
Oh, Kristoff. I did write. Oh, I just wrote, he made me so mad, low-key. Like, why you so weird? That's what I wrote.
Yeah, I love it.
But, yeah, just the whole, like, I don't know, the God complex. I just don't relate to that, and I mean that's why he's a villain. So, but I just don't understand the whole controlling thing and his obsession with every little thing and Truman as a. I mean, maybe he felt like he was kind of like his dad.
Yeah, you can kind of see that in a couple scenes where he kind of. It's like, is he his father? Does he view him as his father, or does he view Truman as like his pet?
Yeah,
you don't really know.
Pet.
But I really, really love all the characters in this movie.
Oh, yeah,
I would say.
What was your grade?
No worries. I'd give it probably. I wrote full with butter. I feel like I might go extra or extra large with butter. Maybe, I don't know. I think overall the characters are fantastic.
So like large, extra large with butter. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'd put. Yeah, in between large, extra large, maybe just large, slightly overflowing with extra butter.
Okay,
or not like not like extra large, because I don't think there's necessarily like all around everybody's amazing, but I think for the most part everybody does their job and they're fantastic. And then the two main leads of Truman and Kristoff are really, really good. I obviously love Truman as a protagonist, and Jim Carrey gives such a good performance. I think Jim Carrey, this isn't an original idea, everybody kind of thinks this, but him in serious roles, he's such a good actor when he locks in and tries. He's great in comedies like The Grinch, iconic, Dumb and Dumber, the new Sonic movies, like he's great in those. But when he does serious roles, it's just, he just really, you can just see how much of a good actor he is and how much talent he has aside from being funny. And if you know anything about like Jim Carrey in real life, you can see how much he puts kind of his heart and soul into the more dramatic roles and how much more that seems to be in line with who he is. But besides that, I really like Meryl. I think Laura Linney, the actress, can pull off the fake smile and fake enthusiasm so well.
She's like so uncanny valley. You're like,
you just hate her, man.
No,
she's
the
so
worst.
annoying. And how she tries to just gaslight Truman into everything and try to guilt him.
The whole thing is just gaslighting.
Yeah. I really like Marlon, like you were talking about. And I think he actually does care for Truman a little bit in some of the scenes they have together. It kind of seems like there is something there, because you have to remember he's been growing up with Truman like this whole time too. And there's actually deleted scenes of Marlon where they have an actor meeting with Kristoff of all the actors, like the day after they say that his dad's alive, and Marlon's kind of pushing back on it and kind of not very happy with Kristoff. And then the very, very ending, when the whole town is looking for him, there's a deleted scene where Marlon actually finds Truman getting like on the boat to sail out, but then he lets him go. Yeah. And so...
Yeah, I feel like you can almost see that in that scene that we were talking about. Is that like you can see, I mean, there's no hesitation because he's doing what he's told, but there's like something that's like, you can tell what he's saying isn't sincere, but he just does it anyways.
Yeah, it's like talking about the difference between Meryl and Marlon is when Meryl gives any line, there's like no heart to it. It just sounds like she's like reading off a script or just reading whatever they're telling her. Whereas Marlon, yes, he's being told what to say, but there does, like you were saying, there does seem to be something behind that a little bit. Like he does care to a degree. So I wish they kept those scenes in. I do understand why they cut them because I don't really know where they'd fit. But I really do like Marlon. But my favorite character is Kristoff. Kristoff is low-key one of my favorite movie villains of all time. I think he is so interesting, not compelling, but so fascinating to watch. Ed Harris gives probably one of my favorite villain performances. There's so much that he just shows through his performance that doesn't necessarily need to be said. Like you were saying, of where does his God complex come from? I was doing some research and actually found out that Ed Harris originally wanted Kristoff to have a hunchback to kind of imply that he doesn't like the world that he's like, the reality he lives in. So he wants to create a fake one for this person, for Truman, and just give him the life he wishes he had. But then when he saw what he would look like with the hunchback on, he was like, never mind, I don't want to do that. But you can still see that side of the character in his performance. Like at the very end when he's telling Truman, like, people are putting on as much of a performance out there as they're putting on in here. Like, you don't want to leave. Like, this is such a good world.
It's not much different. You're just safer
Exactly.
Here. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can just tell how much he really thinks he's kind of doing what's right for Truman, even though it's not. And kind of how he cares for him, but he doesn't care for him. He views him as a pet. It's just, I don't know. It's just so interesting, so fascinating. I really like characters with God complexes because they're usually so evil. But just the ways they've convinced themselves that they're right.
That they're in the right.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like Thanos.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite scenes with him is a very small one when it's just Truman sleeping and Kristoff just walks up to the screen and just like puts his hand on Truman's face.
Yeah.
Just like the awkward, like it almost seems like it's almost endearing, but it's also, no, this is gross. This is weird.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
It's like an unhealthy attachment.
Exactly. And just the way he carries himself and his clothes, like he just seems like such an odd fella.
He's just an icky guy.
Yeah.
And that's why I said he made me so mad. Like, why are you so weird?
Exactly. Yeah. And I did notice this time around there's a line that one of the producers says, or the interviewer says, I think, when he's interviewing Kristoff, which is another great scene. But he's saying how, thank you for doing this interview. We know how much you value your privacy, which is so ironic considering how Truman has no privacy. So it's just so interesting. Just, he's such a good villain.
He gets to hide away.
Exactly. And I think that type of character, the way he performs, is exactly how Dr. Doom needs to act in the Marvel universe. But we're probably not going to get that. Because Robert Downey Jr. is playing Dr. Doom. But I'm not going to talk about that.
I have no thoughts on that. But I'm glad you feel passionately towards it.
Yes. But moving on.
Were there any ones you missed?
Or I guess the audience. I really love how it cuts back, just kind of exactly what you were saying. I don't really have any other thoughts on that. I love seeing how the world reacts to things, and I love the very, very ending where it's just those two security dudes after the transmission cuts, and they're just like, "Want to see what else is on TV? Yeah, let's just watch something else." It's just
they
so
never
funny.
cared about him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're
very interesting.
They're just looking to be entertained.
Mm-hmm. Ain't we all?
Ain't we all? I also let me look at my notes really quick because I had to change them a little bit. I think I'll just say I don't know where I put it. I also just think the audience is so interesting because, and maybe it's the plot a little bit too, but it's so interesting because this is what we all do all the time with social media.
Exactly.
We have seen, I mean, we're now in that, I feel like I'm at that point where I've seen people grow up online. Like, I've genuinely seen people from almost being a baby to adulthood. And so it's kind of weird that we're living in a time where this is actually what we do all the time.
Yeah, it's a very...
And we consume it so naturally that we don't even think about it. And it's different, obviously, social media versus like 24-hour live stream TV show. But it's social media is low-key the Truman Show.
Yeah, exactly. We talk about something I've heard talked about a lot recently is kind of the parasocial relationship we have with influencers and stuff like that. And that's what the audience in Truman Show has with Truman. Like, they care about him so much and feel like they're, at least some of them care about him. They feel like they're part of his life, but they're really not. And it's like how we are with influencers and stuff like that.
Totally. I don't know if you know this, Garett, but last year I did a whole presentation on parasocial relationships.
Really? Wow. So you could probably talk about this way more than I could.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you don't know what they are, go take a look into parasocial. It's basically just one-sided relationships with public figures.
Yeah.
And you just think, and honestly, fake characters too. Like, some people have unhealthy attachments to, I mean, think about watching a movie when, like, the one example I can think of off the top of my head is when Iron Man dies.
Yeah.
Like, didn't that crush your soul a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, we've had this character for so long and his end, and, you know, we all sob, and anyways. So it's so interesting that we feel so strongly about these kinds of characters and have these relationships that are so completely one-sided. So
it's not necessarily
show is all about.
Yeah, exactly.
Even Kristoff, because Truman, that's a parasocial relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Truman has no idea who Kristoff is or that he's doing what he's doing. And so, I mean, he kind of figures it out, obviously, but like the petting of his face on the screen and stuff, like, it's so one, because I mean, they're seeing everything about him. They see all of his habits. They see everything that he does, which just takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I've seen a lot of memes where it talks about just the millions of viewers who would tune into Truman's teenage years, and just imagine the types of things they would have to be watching.
Gosh, I know. I saw some funny Letterboxd reviews.
Yeah.
That were killing me.
Last thing I'll say just about characters and acting is, I forgot to mention this, but one of my favorite parts of this movie is when Truman sails into the wall, and then Jim Carrey's performance of when he touches the wall and then he's just smashing against it and just like kind of screaming and losing his mind a little bit. Because yes, at that point he pretty much knew, but that was just the confirmation that everything in his life had just been manufactured. None of it was real. And just the way Jim Carrey does that scene of how he's emotional about it and finally finding out this realization, it's just so real and very sad, and that pairs really well with the music that goes on in that scene, which transitions us perfectly into the music category. So
love it.
I guess I'll go first since you went first with character. I don't have much to say about the music of this movie. I give it like medium with butter. Like, It's not bad by any means, but it's also just not something I would necessarily listen to outside of the movie. When it works really, really well. Particularly that ending scene that I was talking about when he hits the wall and stuff like that. And I really love the music that plays when Truman's in the street kind of figuring out that everything's revolving around him and stopping the traffic and stuff. I love that part. And then, again, I think it works for the movie, but there isn't necessarily anything besides those few that I just mentioned that I think like stand out.
Yeah. No, I agree. I gave it just a large popcorn bucket because I mean, I did like it. I agree that it works when it works. And I actually wrote that I didn't feel like it was anything too special or that anything that I was blown away by. Or my dad actually said something interesting after he listened to the last episode. He was saying that he measures good music in a movie if he wakes up the next day and he's humming it. Like, if you told me to hum what music was in this movie, I could not give you a single note. But I have to give credit to that end scene because it is so powerful. I remember I was watching it and I was like, well, I got to give it credit though, because it was so good at the end. And I think without that music, it wouldn't be as impactful as it is. So I just gave it a large popcorn bucket. Don't think I'll be like tuning in, listening to it, adding to my playlist, but I thought what they did with it was good and it fit the movie.
For sure. Definitely. Yeah.
Nice.
Not much to say here, but moving on to aesthetic. How did you like the aesthetic of this movie?
You know, this one was a tough one for me, Garrett, because I feel like I'm not I don't know. I don't have the same eye for movies that I feel like maybe you do, so maybe you'll have to help me figure this one out. I didn't hate the aesthetic.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to give it maybe say like around what you gave music, maybe just a medium popcorn bucket with some butter. Like, I didn't feel like there was anything in it other than the end scene, which is so iconic with like the wall and like the stairs and the open door, because that shot is so cool. But there wasn't anything, I think, with the way that they had to do it with all the different cameras so that you can see how they're filming and stuff. It was cool and it was necessary, but I don't think it was beautiful.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, it's not a movie that I was like, wow, the cinematography. I don't even know what you would look for cinematography. But, I thought what they did was good.
Yeah.
Just maybe not necessarily something that I'm in love with. I don't know. What do you think?
I get it. I would say I put in my notes medium bucket with butter, but I think I might go up just the more I've thought about it. Probably full bucket with butter. Because like you were saying, large bucket. Yes, thank you. Like you were saying, there's not many moments in the movie that you're like, wow, that was beautiful. Besides the ending scene and a couple other ones like kind of sprinkled throughout. Most of the movie is shot through, the hidden cameras trying to give you what
like
the audience sees.
Yeah, like the fisheye, like looking lenses. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think I got to give it kind of credit for that. And in other movies...
It is creative.
Exactly. Like there's nothing else like it. And that's kind of why I think it works, because that's why I give it a large bucket, because it's clever. Like no other movie does this. No other movie will do this. And no other movie can get away with it. And I think that's kind of what makes it super original in that regard, in the aesthetic regard. So I would probably give it full with butter, but I 100% understand. Large. Thank you. I don't know why I keep saying full. We're getting used to it. But I think that's what I understand why people wouldn't agree or wouldn't think the aesthetic is great. But I think just based on its originality, I got to give it full with butter. I really like it. And then when the cinematography hits, it hits. Like that last scene is everywhere. You see that everywhere.
Yeah. Well, and I will say, I just lost my sentence. I don't think the point of this movie is to be aesthetically beautiful.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
I mean?
It would kind of take away if it was.
Exactly. And like you said, when it hits, it hits. And so I think they accomplished what they were going to, but maybe the reason why I don't necessarily love it is because it wouldn't work in a lot of other situations, but it did for this.
Yeah, exactly. Sweet. Well, moving on to some of our last two categories, entertainment value. So I will say I think the entertainment value of the Truman Show is a full bucket with...
Large.
So, my gosh, I'll edit that part out. I would give the entertainment value a large popcorn bucket with extra butter. Not extra large bucket, but I think I'd give it a large bucket with extra butter because I do think this movie is highly entertaining, very rewatchable for the first few watch throughs for sure. But if you're watching this movie every day, I can see how it can kind of get a little boring, but I don't think the movie is boring at all. I think any movie you would watch that many times would get boring eventually. And I love slower paced movies. But that being said, like, this isn't an action movie. This is a very philosophical, methodical type movie. Gets you to think. And I do think that still gives the entertainment value of a full bucket, especially on the first watch through when you're piecing together how the story works and the ins and outs of how they can keep this a secret from Truman and stuff like that. And I will say I was watching it with my roommate who was dead tired, but he stayed awake the whole time. So he was able to stay awake and he'd watched it before.
Some brownie points.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, when we were talking about plot, I think the pacing and the suspense of this movie makes it so fast and so easy to watch. So yeah, large bucket with extra butter because I personally really, really love it. But I can see why some might think that it's a little slow.
Yeah, for sure. I honestly didn't think it was slow, especially upon first watch. I don't know how rewatchable it would be for me personally, but I did give it, since this is my first watch, I did give it a large popcorn butter. I did give it a large popcorn bucket with butter.
Yeah.
Not extra butter, not extra large. Just, I enjoyed it. It was great.
It was good.
Love it.
Love it.
Okay, last one. I love this category, so shout out to Adam for suggesting it because I personally think of movies as, and music a lot of the times, as like, what time of the year should I be listening or watching this?
Yeah, definitely.
What did you think it was?
I kind of have two answers for this one because I feel like this movie is a very good kind of beginning of the year movie, especially when you're thinking about like, I'm going to, your New Year's resolutions, like I'm making goals, just how Truman has to learn to break free and learn to make his own decisions and have his agency to live his own life. I feel like it kind of works for the beginning of the year because it's like, I got to make things happen. Nobody's going to do this for me. I got to be Truman. I got to sail to the end of the ocean, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But going off its aesthetic, I think 100% it's a May or June watch, like spring, late spring, early summer. I would definitely put it there.
Yes, I definitely put it as springtime. This is a springtime watch for sure. I said April, May, but I could see beginning of the summer.
Yeah.
Just based off of the vibes, the aesthetic, them riding out on bikes all the time, always being outside, all that
the beach
stuff.
Town.
But I do like that there's like a theme with like the, I could see the beginning of the year. I just don't think that January is just not the time to watch Truman Show.
Yeah.
So good thing it's February.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like in comparison to Little Women, both based on its themes and its aesthetic, like 100% that is a November movie. There is no other perfect time to watch that movie besides in November. This one, I do think there's something to be said of, early in the year, but going off its aesthetic, spring, summer for sure.
Yeah. Let's have the listeners, the watchers, the listeners, tell us what you think. Is it beginning of the year or is it springtime? What speaks to you?
Yes. Put it in the comments. I'm actually very interested to see.
I'm curious.
Yeah. This isn't just me saying.
Or is it something completely different? Did we miss the mark?
Maybe you watch Truman Show every Christmas because you're weird. Just let us know.
Maybe it's a Christmas movie in your house.
Yeah, but this isn't a time when, a YouTuber will say comment or like throw something in the comments and they're just saying that so they can get more like clicks. No, I'm genuinely very interested.
No, we gotta know.
Yeah, please let us know. But in closing, for our final thoughts on the Truman Show overall, Natalie, overall, what would you give Peter Weir's The Truman Show.
I'm giving The Truman Show a large popcorn bucket with extra butter.
Yeah.
I need a big one. Not extra large, but a big one. Get some butter throughout there. Maybe a little salt. Nice bucket. Bang,
Perfect.
bang.
So
I really liked it.
Yeah.
It was great. It's hard for me to talk in depth about movies that I've seen for the first time. So props to you last week, because as I was watching it, I'm like, I'm only processing it, like, especially this one is because it's so, I don't know, so thought-provoking that I was just trying to comprehend for a minute. But maybe this is one that down the road, 5-year anniversary of what we watched.
When we rewatch what we've already watched.
When we rewatch The Truman Show. No, I'm just kidding. But hey, you never know.
You never know.
So I think that upon rewatch, I might have a little bit more to say. But for now, I thought it was great. It was interesting, and I liked it.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
What's your final thoughts?
Yes, my final overall thoughts. Like I said, Truman Show is one of my favorite movies. I would probably say it's definitely top 10, might be top 5. So I have a very, very strong opinion of this movie. I think overall, I would give it an extra large bucket with extra butter. Very good. Yeah, not really. I don't know. I would have to reach to find things that I really don't like about it. Like we said, the music and the aesthetic, I can see, like, the music I don't love, and the aesthetic, I can see why people wouldn't like that. But those aren't necessarily even bad things. Like, they work in their regards. Exactly.
Totally.
So I think objectively, quote unquote, objectively, I would give it a large or extra large bucket. I think one of the best movies Hollywood has made it's an old movie by now, but one of the best movies Hollywood has made, in my opinion, that I've seen, and one of my favorite movies. So extra butter. I love this movie, and I hope that you all enjoyed it as much as I did, and as much as Natalie did.
Yeah, it was great. I hope y'all.
So, finally, the announcement of what we will be watching next week for Natalie's pick. So, Natalie, I'm very eager to learn what you picked. I'm actually kind of worried for this one. I'm not gonna lie.
You should be a little worried. I think we need to get maybe a little bit of contention in here.
And I hope.
So, Garrett, are you ready to watch? Drumroll, please. Clueless.
Clueless.
Have you seen it?
No.
Yes. Hey, it has Paul Rudd.
Okay, it does have Paul Rudd. Remind me what that movie is. I'm thinking of 5 different movies it could be.
Yeah, it's just Clueless. I don't really know how to explain it. It's just a teenage girly pop movie from the 90s.
So it's right up my alley.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of me and my mom's favorite movies of all time. It's fun. It's funny. It's a comedy. It's like a rom-com, but it's definitely a little campy. So can't wait for you to watch it.
Well,
I know, guys. I think everybody should watch this one and tune in, because it might be the first one that we have disagreements on. Hopefully, we need to stop agreeing at some point. So I think this one might be a good one to start that.
Yeah,
guess we'll find out.
If we end up agreeing on Clueless, like, it's good to agree, obviously, but if we end up going 3 movies in a row where we just are like, yeah, I agree with everything you said, then I have the big guns I can pull out, which I won't tell you, but I have things that I know
he has
you
some
will
tricks
not
up
like.
his sleeve.
Yeah. So let's see if I like Clueless. Tune in to our next episode 2 weeks from when this one drops.
2 weeks, y'all.
And
hopefully we'll have some professional photos by then so you can see our faces.
Also, happy late Valentine's Day to all those who will be celebrating. I will not, but one day I will.
Neither will I. Get us some dates. Get me a boyfriend. Get you a girlfriend. Let us know if you have anybody for us to get set up with. We'll be lonely this Valentine's Day.
Finally, last thing I'll say is, if I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.